What's up, everyone? It's the Nomad Brad, and I'm joined by two wonderful guests today. Two of my best friends and amazing entrepreneurs, marketers, Depriest and Conor Boyland.
I prefer to be called lifetime hetero life mate. And I had life in there twice because I'm so alive.
Obviously, there are a couple of jokesters, and it's what I appreciate about you.
Oh, is that what you appreciate about us?
Thank you so much, guys, for being here and sharing some of your wisdom.
A lot of it's going to be stories, guys. Be ready. They're going to be funny stories, but you're going to learn some stuff and some things.
So I think, particularly Race, you're probably one of the most successful people I've ever seen at living exactly the kind of life you want on your terms. And I think that would be really cool to talk about. Both of you have traveled all over the world, had really amazing adventures, and lived all over the world, which is something that I definitely aspire to and I've always wanted to do, try to do as much as I can. And I know a lot of other people out there in the world, would love to have a taste of that kind of lifestyle. So I'd love to talk about some of your tips and tricks and lessons you've learned along the way. So,
sure. Do you want me to jump in? Me? Then you? Then me? Then you?
Step one, lower your standards.
Honestly, that's not a bad step one.
Yeah.
For real.
Get ready to drink a lot of bags of wine.
Absolutely.
Sleep on a lot of couches.
Yeah.
Done.
Also have a lot of adventures.
Indeed. Honestly, it really is a whole different type of life.
You've really never done anything else, right? Like you were just saying, like, you haven't had a job, a real like classical job.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had to wear a suit to a job.
Ooh.
Probably not. So I have had a lot of jobs, but I've never had a job longer than 3 months. I always either was like, I can do this better. Let's get out of here. This is dumb. Or this is literally wasting my time. I can't do this anymore. So I just quit or left or whatever. And so that always just led me to be like, all right, well, okay. Obviously it gave me an opportunity to try a bunch of different things. I just wasn't set. I just wasn't sold on the idea of getting a job, work hard, make your way up the ladder or whatever they call it, and then like become more successful at it. It didn't make sense to me, mostly because I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
And honestly, one of the biggest things was being told where I had to be at a certain time was really irksome to me, which I know sounds super silly because you just gotta do that sometimes. Like, I don't ever set an alarm. I wake up whenever I want, except for getting on a flight, which then I started booking my flights in different times, so I don't have to even set an alarm for that. But so that was hard, and I didn't realize there was another way. I just knew I didn't like that way. As far as the traveling part, so obviously not having a job, it's not like I was just rolling in dough or anything.
Well, so we should clarify too.
Yeah.
It's not like you were, born into a wealthy family or something. You didn't have any.
My dad is a duke in England. Just kidding. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. Yeah, no, I was not born into any sort of wealth. So I had to be okay with, if you're not going to show up for a job that you really just detest to make money, then you got to be okay with not having money and figure it out from there. So that was the position. But something I learned really early on, which was pretty transformational for me, was when I make a decision first, everything else starts falling into place. Awesome. It's not like, hey, get all the resources together, plan it all out, and then someday when you're ready and everything's perfect, you can go. For example, I hear a lot of people saying, someday I want to go travel here. But to them, that means they have to have figured out some extra income. They have to figure out, when are flights the cheapest or whatever. All these things that never end up occurring. I think someday is probably the most deadly thing you could say. Because that's a dream killer to me. I'll do that someday. Someday I want to. Is like the most... To me, when I hear that, I'm like, you just already killed that dream. So what I ask everyone when they say anything like that, I'll be like, oh yeah, so when do you want to go? They don't even know a time frame. Okay, so what steps are you taking right now to do it? How much does it cost? Haven't even looked up flights. So it's just like, okay, obviously that's not really something you want to do. I didn't realize that. Obviously, when you're growing up, you just believe everything at the start of the go.
Yeah.
I thought people really meant these things, but they're just saying it. They don't mean it at all. And so what I figured out early on, at least to me, it was in college, was realizing once I make the decision, yep, I'm going to do that. For example, when I woke up one day in college and I was like, I'm going to go study abroad in Spain. I had no idea how to do that. It was a thought that came to me and I said, yes, do it.
Awesome.
And once I said yes, I was like, all right, first step. Went down to the office where you look through all these books and you sign up to apply for it. Then the next part was, okay, I got accepted. Now which college? Now where? And it just built on itself. And for example, when it came to New Zealand, I was going through a really bad breakup at the time. And I was like, I just want to get out of here. I want to go somewhere. I was like, New Zealand. I have some friends there from when I studied abroad there. But how the hell do I get there? That's a really far place to go to with no money.
Right.
But I made the decision, and then paths started opening up for me. For example, I found out there's a visa I could get to stay there, traveling holiday visa for people from this age to this age. It was free. So I just mailed in my passport and got the visa like a week later. So I'm like, all right, I can go. I can go there and stay there. Now, how do I get there? Well, I had dated a flight attendant. And a lot of people be like, well, yeah, but you dated a flight attendant, so you got that. No, dude, it's just how your life's set up. Things will start opening up. So I got a buddy pass. Did I have to go every night to the airport to see if there was an opening on the flight for a month? Yeah, every night I went. But I made it happen.
Because that was the option that you had available to you at the time.
Yeah.
You didn't have money to just go out and buy the plane ticket that you needed to get to New Orleans or to New Zealand.
Yeah.
But you did look at the options that were available to you.
A girl that I dated got me a buddy pass, and with the buddy pass, it's pretty much standby. So I had to go every night. But that's the effort I put in because that's what I chose to do and I wanted to do it. But guess what I got? Upgraded to a business class because they had that.
Nice.
Just like on almost the 30th day, like literally almost a whole month. One night, it was like, oh, we do have some free seats and we can upgrade you for free to business class. Guys, this was by the way, I paid for this by going gambling with my dad and we won $300. It was his, but he gave it to me. But that's how I played. $150 for the buddy pass and then had a few dollars left over. And I'm sitting here on a 14-hour flight. It's one of the longest flights you can take. Business class. I'm getting filet mignon. I'm like, what?
How old were you?
Like 23, 24.
23-year-old in business class, probably just like, what the hell
I
is
just
this kid
did it.
doing?
I was like, what is going on? This life can't be real. And then I show up. Guess what? They lose my bags in Australia. And because it's a buddy pass, they switch it around. I ended up going to the wrong airport in New Zealand. 5 hours away from where I was supposed to be going. But I had a friend who was a neighbor, a girl, who lived there, who was willing to drive 5 hours to come pick me up and take me back down to Queenstown, or right outside of Queenstown, Cromwell. Let me borrow her family's extra car to go do job interviews. I swear I only had $40 in my pocket.
And you're in a brand new country. You've never been there before.
A country that is so far away, an island country, that how do you show up somewhere so far away from anything you know with $40 in your pocket and no return ticket? And that's the thing, man.
But you had decided.
I decided to do
I want to live in New Zealand, right?
Yep, I want to go there.
It all started there.
Yep, the decision. So here's the thing. A lot of people think when things are right, I'll make the decision.
Dude, I think that all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
once everything gets together, then I'll do that thing that I want. The reality of it is what I found out is once you make the decision, then all the pieces start coming into play. And part of it might be because you never started looking at them because you haven't committed on it.
Yeah.
Have you found this to be true in your life as well, Connor?
100%.
So you have a kind of interesting, different take on this because when I met you, you were working as an engineer, so you had the traditional, 9-to-5 corporate kind of job and were excelling at it. But at some point, and I remember the conversation that we had, you just read the 4-Hour Workweek, and you were like starting to think differently. So how did that play out in your life?
Well, I made a decision that I was going to quit my job. I had no idea what I was going to do.
Not a good decision, according to all of your friends and family, right?
Yeah. But I remember... So I took the traditional college degree engineering job. I was working at a really good company if you want to be an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated it. I was really miserable. I have a different opinion about jobs. I think jobs are great.
Yeah.
But that's just me. But it wasn't a job for me. So I was thinking, I got to quit and find something else to do. I was 26, 27. And I thought, if I keep doing this, I'm going to get locked into this career path. And then I'll probably end up with a girlfriend and then a wife and some kids. And I won't be able to quit because I'll have too many responsibilities weighing me down in my 30s. So if I'm going to quit, like, I got to get off now because I don't like where this is going. And so I just made a decision that I had to quit. I remember, like, coming home one day, parking in my garage, and then, like, pacing around in the garage with so much energy because I had just decided that it was happening and it became real. And I didn't know what I was going to do.
Wow.
But my whole body, I, like, paced around my garage. I was, like, alone, but, like, breaking stuff, like, expressing energy.
Yeah.
And I had so much clarity and focus that I hadn't experienced in a long time because I finally decided, I'm changing this.
Amazing.
I'm going to quit. I don't know what I'm going to do, but the moment I actually allowed myself to decide, everything started to shift. And yeah, I didn't know that I was going to end up quitting to become a dating coach and work with you guys and, like, travel around and now become a copywriter or a business owner. Like, that, the path led me here,
right?
But it started with deciding I don't like where this is headed. I'm going to make a new decision and commit to it. And I think what you were saying is there's a huge difference between saying I want to do something and I'm committed to making it happen. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to make money, to be affiliate marketer, to have a business. Everybody wants this laptop beach lifestyle. They think they want it. But there's a huge difference between wanting it and committing to it. Committing to it means this is going to be really scary and uncomfortable and weird, but I'm going to do it anyways because it's worth it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't need to know how. Yeah. Like, I like what you said. You'll figure out the how after you decide. Yeah. But if you don't decide, your brain will never orient itself to figuring it out. You'll keep on asking the same old questions that have you stuck where you are.
You're waiting for someday, which never comes. Someday when you have enough money, you have enough
you'll
free
never
time.
have enough. Ever. You'll never be ready.
Never.
You're ready now. That's the lie. You're always ready.
Yeah, now is your only time. Yeah. It's the only time you've ever had.
I love your story, too, because it demonstrates, like, it wasn't, again, quote unquote, a good decision. Like, it was uncomfortable.
Right.
And you were dealing with that, like, processing that by having this, like, huge burst of energy. I'm sure it was exciting.
Right.
But also, you really had no idea what was about to happen.
No, not at all. But I committed to that before, like, probably a month later. Like, I could have just quit my job, but I had bills to pay, and I didn't know, like, there's always the emotional part. I want to do this, and then there's reality. Well, what's it going to take? Yeah. It's going to take money and resources and connections, and something's got to happen. So after I decided to quit, my mind started thinking, cool, like, how am I going to do this and survive? What is it going to take? Yeah. What are the opportunities? Everyone has opportunities that they're not paying attention to.
You can't see them.
Yeah.
They literally are blind to you.
But when
you make that decision.
When you decide, then your brain is like, oh, I'm going to pay attention.
Yeah. Starts a searchlight that puts out, and then it's like, whoa, there actually is a lot of different ways that this could happen that I never thought about. Yeah. And also, you find more opportunities proactively because you're actually looking for them, but also because you're doing all these things outside of your control start lining up in really exciting ways. So, like, a month later, I went to your birthday at a bar, and the guy that you worked for, Joshua, the company was expanding, and he's like, hey, why don't you come work for me? Right. Over drinks. Yeah. And that was already on my mind, like, I'm looking for something. Yeah. And that seemed like something to say yes to, so I said yes. Yeah. Amazing.
I will say, too, in both cases, like, you guys are, probably two of the, like, best people I've ever met at giving value first. Like, the reason you were at my birthday party in LA was because you had just been constantly, we met at an event, and then you constantly were just inviting me to cool events to hang out with your friends. You were just super cool. Like, we met professionally, like I worked for that company. Mm-hmm. You came to an event, and then instead of just being like, oh, I can't talk to him, or whatever, or maybe we'll bump into each other, you like proactively, you were just always being super cool and inviting me to stuff, and you always gave value. And you mentioned, like, you got to New Zealand, you didn't know anybody, but you did have at least one friend who was willing to, drive 5 hours and whatever. But that isn't because you like begged them. It was because you always lead first with providing value to people.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not the path for everybody, but if you can do that, I feel like it greases the wheels for a lot more opportunities to come your way.
I mean, I rarely take a hard stance on anything, but I think that should be a thing for everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, if you are listening to this and you want any of the things we're talking about, putting value first to other people, like giving before like needing or taking, is going to be a fundamental shift that you need to make if you want this to be more easy and honestly slightly magical. Mm-hmm. That is one of the key things. So bringing that up, like, fine, it might not be for everyone, but you have a harder road ahead of you if you don't make that switch. And it's not that hard. I mean, I guess it kind of can be, depending on where you're at. But just if you even put that in your mind as a thought of like, all right, I'm going to decide to do this. Let me see what I can give other people. And I know it's hard because at the beginning, it's like, I give so much and no one ever returns. Yeah. And then you get into this pity party.
I was going to say, that's a bullshit belief.
Yeah.
Everyone that says that isn't really, they're not giving for the right reason.
Well, they're giving a gift. What I call it is a gift with a hook in it.
Yes.
They're giving it because they really want something in return.
And if you don't, you get disappointed and then you start getting jaded about people.
Yep.
That's not
everyone's
not good enough.
Nope.
And you have to give without expecting it in return.
Yep. Don't expect anything back.
You weren't, when we first started talking back in LA, you weren't like, I want to get a job with this company, so I'm going to try to like, no, you literally all the time were just like, hey, my friends and I are hanging out. Want to come over? Like, just another cool friend in LA.
Well, and also you were cool. If you were lame and you didn't add value to the group, I'd stop inviting you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
like, if you showed up and everyone was like, this guy's making me uncomfortable, that's the only invite you're going to get. And I actually, do you remember this? I can't remember if you were there or not. There was another guy at that live event who was a student who also wanted to hang out. And he ended up creeping out one of my female friends very hard.
Oof.
And we never talked to him again. He, like, didn't make the cut, because he wasn't cool.
Interesting. I don't remember that person.
Yeah, he, like, came out to hang out with us. Uh-huh. He actually brought a girl with him that he had just recently met. And I'm like, great, bring your girl. Mm-hmm. I'll introduce you to everyone. Come join the crew. And then he ended up getting really drunk. He didn't know how to get back. Apparently he drove from a little bit farther away than he was ready to drive. So I'm like, oh, dude, you're drinking. Like, stay at my place. Crash here. He ended up crashing in, like, a spare room with this girl, making her really uncomfortable. And then in the morning, she, like, came down, and we're all just hanging out, having, like, a hungover morning on the couch, talking about the night before. She has this shell-shocked look on her face, like, how did I wind up here? I don't belong here. We were, like, trying to make her comfortable. And this guy just came and sat down and, like, didn't speak for, like, 2 hours. Just, like, psycho status. Like, just staring at the wall, like, not talking. And then he, like, tried to... I don't know. He ended up being very weird. And so I had to ask him to leave. Mm-hmm. So you were the opposite of that guy.
Yeah. But, like...
You didn't just get invited places because of no reason. Because you were cool and you made it worth it.
So you guys both, Race and Connor, are experts in the dating and relationship field. So they help people to learn concepts like this, like giving value. It's that's a really cool concept. So if somebody doesn't really know how to do that, I thought talking about a gift with a hook in it, that's brilliant. I've never heard that before. Then it's
probably
like the opposite of what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but I just noticed that in my life. I even did that.
Yeah, it's
all the time.
It's a natural.
And I needed to expunge that from my personality. And once I did, life became so much more enjoyable.
So how do you give value to people the right way?
Okay. Always it's hard for me when I hear the word right. It's a trigger word for me because right and wrong. Seems
fair enough.
Very subjective.
But that's the thing that I also had to work through because I did.
Well,
think
let's
there's a lot
let's
of
talk
right and wrongs.
about strategically. What distinctions did you make about
Here's
value?
what I switched it to: helpful or unhelpful. So
Okay.
it's about you deciding what you want in your life, and are certain things that you're doing being helpful for that or unhelpful, pushing you away from it.
I like that.
So you're coming back to that decision that you've made, that
Yeah.
a direction you've chosen toward more of what you want, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you right away, and it's a concept I actually call treasure hunting. It's like understanding that everyone walking around. So, for example, you guys, Brad, you have however many years old you are of experience that I can never, like, I would have to go through every single thing you've ever gone through and spend the next however many years doing that just to get the kind of experience that you've had.
Mm-hmm.
That's not possible. But what is cool is everyone has that. They're literally like a treasure chest full of the cool shit that you will never get to experience. But they have it that they can share with you and give you the highlight reel or share some insights. So everyone around you, just look around. Anyone you see walking has that many years of experiences that are very unique to them, that they've gone through, processed in the way that they have, lessons they've learned, just a ton of fucking treasure. And if you see people like that, then it's like, holy shit, anyone I talk to has so many cool things that I could learn from them, which is such a different way of how I used to look at people, because I used to think like, how can I get them to like me? That was usually the starting point, right? That's the hook for sure that you got in that gift, because everything you're doing is trying to get them to like you, so you can get your own validation.
Yeah, and then if they do, you feel really good.
Yep.
And if they don't, you feel really bad.
Really bad.
But either way, you're giving your power away to them.
Subject to their thoughts.
Yeah.
For sure. And then that sucks, because you're on a roller coaster that you can't get off. And you never get any control or power over your own life. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's so, I think, a fundamental shift and one of the most important hacks in life I've ever found.
That's amazing. So when you decided that you made a hard decision that you weren't going to go the traditional path of getting a job, you, like you said, you've tried different jobs, or
lots of them.
At some point it didn't agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I did construction, like resurfacing pool decks. I've done working at a bank. Talk about traditional. I was a teller. I've done all kinds of. I did valet parking because I was like, oh, well, maybe try something a little less traditional where you get paid out with tips and you can work at night. I was even like an assistant to a numerologist, like a pretty famous numerologist, where I booked all his calls and stuff.
Nice.
It was really weird. What a weird job to get.
Yeah, it's a very weird.
Executive assistant to a famous numerologist. Where they called up and heard his interviews and were like, "Hey, do the numbers on my name and tell me about my future."
Wow.
So just fortune telling. But I tried all this stuff and just none of it fit because I just didn't like being told what to do or where to be.
Yep.
I know that sounds like I'm just an ornery bastard, but I don't know. It was at least enough of a push to be like, all right, is this all that life has to offer? Mm-hmm. Like, because we all come in this life going, where are we? What's going on? Right? And we've learned most of that from listening to other people. And if I had done that, I would have probably just got a regular job, stuck with the bank, worked my way up. I've had friends that have done that. Regional manager, then they got better. Then they just went to more school, then got a better job, and they're doing great. Yeah. But it didn't fit for me.
Yeah.
So I think if you're probably listening to this, something's not fitting for you. So hopefully this will be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I being in this whole world of like people giving business advice, I always hear people talk about quitting their job, or like the ultimate dream is to not have a job. But like, there's nothing wrong with having a job.
Right. Nope, agreed.
It's just a valid path that a lot of people take in life. But sometimes if you decide it's not for you, you got to listen to somebody else.
I love that. I think that's a perfect transition into what I wanted to talk about next. Like, what my perspective on that is that even if you don't have a job, you do have to do something that provides value and generates income.
Yeah.
So
it's set that way.
let's talk about some of the cool things that we've learned about ways other than the traditional path of getting a job that create real income, right? Like some of the things we've maybe tried out, or some of the different business models. Because, like, you're right. As soon as you make that decision that a job isn't for you, well, it doesn't mean, unless you do just have some independent wealth from, whatever, where you never have to work a day in your life. I've found that even the people who have that will end up doing something.
Yeah.
They dedicate their time and energy towards some goal. Like, that's part of being a human being.
Yeah.
We aspire to things. We aspire to growth, goals, all that stuff. So if it's not about money, maybe money is never an issue for you. You're good for the next few generations, or your family's good. But you get into
something to do
charities
with
or parties or something. And so, I would love to talk about some actual, strategies, experiences, thoughts on the other ways that you can create, income.
It depends on what stage you're at.
Okay.
Like, right after I quit working for SpaceX, I was not ready to just go be an entrepreneur and generate my own income. Mm-hmm. I still needed to go work for someone who already had money and provide value to them. Mm-hmm. Just a different kind of job.
Right.
Like, I make money now because I'm a copywriter, but I learned how to do copywriting by doing it for other people who paid me.
Right.
So it might not have been like an employee job. I shifted from being an employee to like self-employed contractor.
Yep.
But I was still doing a service for other people who already had money and could help me.
And it was more toward what you wanted ultimately.
Yeah,
in life,
moving
right?
more towards the goal of owning my own thing and having autonomy and control. But I think a lot of people jump out from having a job and they try to start a business right away, and they're just not ready. There's no way to know everything you need to know. Mm-hmm. And a really good transition from going from a job to having your own thing, a way better transition is work for someone else who has the kind of company you want and learn from them.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Otherwise, the only other option is to try to watch a lot of videos or learn on your own. And then there's no way to know if you're learning from the right person or not. Like, you got to being around marketers has made me a better marketer.
Right.
Working for people as a copywriter, like people who already had their shit together.
And you didn't set out from SpaceX wanting to be a marketer or a copywriter either.
No,
like you said,
I just wanted adventure.
You just wanted more.
Yeah.
You just kept following the path of what you were excited about instead of...
Yeah, but I think kind of what you were getting at, a lot of times the path is dictated by having to make money somehow.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So how do you do that? A lot of the turns that my path has taken have been because I fucked up, didn't have any money, and had to figure something out.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing I learned was go work for someone else who already figured it out and learn from them and have them pay you while they do it.
Yeah, that's super smart.
Yeah. What about you?
I guess I probably did very similar thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Went and... I mean, I definitely tried, like, from the start. So, I mean, we all got a pretty big start from reading the 4-Hour Workweek.
Yeah.
That was literally the first business book I ever read.
That was like the best, like, jump start to anything. And so I was like, all right, so what am I good at and what can I share with the world and give value for? Mm-hmm. At the time, it was window shopping for women. So, because I was broke. I was living on a couch. Surprise! Mm-hmm. But we've talked about that. That's what you got to be okay with as you're figuring out the transition. Unless the other option, which I think you beautifully stated, is go work for someone who's already doing that.
Yeah.
And learn from them and then be able to apply it to what you want to do next.
Yeah. And it's less having a job and more like an apprenticeship.
Exactly. It's no longer what you feel
Yeah.
oppressed by your job. Like, I'm stuck. Yeah. Instead, it feels like, all right, it's worth showing up at this time every day.
Yeah, it's getting me towards where I want to
be.
It is.
Yeah. So then you're now on a path and there's momentum. And honestly, that little shift right there changes your life.
Yeah.
Honestly, because it frees up a lot of mental space, which I don't think we've really talked about yet, is what's going on in your head all day is literally creating what you're going to do with your life and how you build it. And if you're at a job where you're like, man, this sucks, and you're complaining to your coworkers and this and that, that's literally your mental space. It's all filled up with just bogged down, foggy stuff, and that's your life, and you want to do that for the next 80 years, and then you're done, and then you tap out. Or like this, it might still be showing up, working hard, but now in your mind you're like, oh, this is exciting. I just learned how to do that. Oh, how can I use that in my own life? And it becomes, your life gets re-energized and freed up of space, and now you're on a really positive, moving forward momentum, and it's beautiful. So I agree with you completely. That's what I'm saying.
So you read 4-Hour Workweek, and then you started thinking, how could I apply some of these strategies? So the first one you tried was packaging skills that you had built in your life into an information product, which he describes in 4-Hour Workweek.
Exactly. And that's where it first hit home, because I was like pretty directionless before I read that book, because I was like, do I want to go get a job as a personal trainer again? No, I didn't really like it. Do I want to work at a bank again? No, I didn't really like it. And this is the first time I heard, well, what do you do that other people ask you questions about and are like excited that you have that skill set? And I was like, boom, got it.
What was it for the ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, sure. Listening? So this is a while back. It was me. Obviously, I didn't even have a bank account. I didn't. I had $0. I didn't even have a bank account. I was, my friend was paying for my rent, so at least I had a room. So I'm super grateful for that. But I was at the mercy of whatever food. I used to be a vegan before that, and now it was like whatever food is available.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so I didn't even have the luxury of choosing my own diet. But one thing we for sure had was we both were wanting to meet girls. Pretty basic thing. But we figured out a system, and it was because my buddy Kelly Kellum, he was a musician, so he would use social media because we were in Vegas at the time. In order to get booked at a place, you had to bring a certain amount of people. Yeah, so he would use social media constantly to bring enough people to his shows that they would book him at these places. And all I did is I looked and I was like, that's amazing. Most of these are girls and they're cute. Let's use that for dating lives.
Nice.
And so we figured out a whole system of how to have girls just with no money come over to our house, bring over the alcohol or whatever, the food, and just meet up with us at our house. So we didn't have to go anywhere because we didn't have a car. So that was pretty useful.
Yeah.
We weren't by any close bars. Not that we could pay for a drink if we did. And they would really just show up. We honestly would throw it actually got so crazy that we had so many girls replying because the system worked so well that we had to throw parties like once or twice a week just to meet all of them at once because we couldn't individually meet them. Which sounds absurd now.
Yeah.
Like thinking through it, but that's literally how it worked. We'd be like, oh yeah, we just moved into this place. I'm not suggesting you should fabricate things. I mean, we just did move in a couple months ago, but they'd come over, housewarming party, bring all the booze. It would be like, it was the funniest situation. I still remember this. It'd be Kelly and I in the kitchen talking to two girls that just came to meet both of us, right? So he invited this girl, I invited this girl, we're talking, his phone would buzz. He'd look at it, he'd be like, I'll be right back. He walks out to the gate to bring in a new girl. And I'd be talking to now those two girls, and I'd get a buzz on my phone, be like, I'll be right back. And I'd go to walk out to bring in another girl. And they're all like, what's going on? But it was 25 girls and just two guys.
And everybody's having fun.
Everyone was
having
having a blast. And it was crazy. It's just like, there's so much that is possible that unless you try it, you have no clue.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, what is your wildest dream? What is your crazy thing? Decide on it and see if it could actually manifest itself. Like, it's wild. What is actually possible?
And so that was also the valuable thing that you had
that
you could make money from.
Well, so exactly when I read 4-Hour Workweek, I was like, oh, wait, I can package something I'm good at, that because I had all kinds of friends when they'd come visit me in Vegas be like, how do you do this?
Yeah.
And so I'd help them, or I'd take over their account and message girls for them and use the exact same system. And eventually, once I read that, I was like, well, why don't we just create this as an information product for everyone to have? So that I'm sure a lot of guys could get some use out of this. So that's really what spurred me on. So I sat down, never had written a book before, just try to organize it, figure it out, put it together, and then we just, we created it as a product. This is back when I didn't even know how to create a website and all this stuff. Now it's so easy. It's so much easier now to get started than it was back then. I had to have a guy that worked for Sony who could understand how to create a website and integrate stuff, blah, 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 blah. But we did a launch. But one of the big things that I did is once I created this product, I started reaching out to people who had lists, who had an audience, and saying, hey, this is what I do and this is what I got. I would love to do an interview with you and tell you all about it. I want to help you create more content. And by doing that, I just piggybacked on each person. I'd be like, hey, so this guy just did a podcast with me and we talked all about this. Would your audience be interested in this? And they're like, oh, yeah, I know that guy. Okay, cool. Yeah, if he already accepts it, then yeah, come on. And I just kept doing that until I got, up the ladder to someone who's like,
yeah. You're on Sirius Radio.
Yeah, I made it all the way up to be on Maxim Radio, in New York. So you can literally start from nothing. I'm a story of it. I was nobody. I was nothing.
Here's another crazy part. How hilarious. So at the time that you did that, I was in college. Also, young guy, very frustrated, very shy, terrible social life, trying to learn about how to talk to girls. We also happened to be in kind of a boom of that, the pickup boom was happening in the early 2000s or whatever. And I remember finding this webpage because I was listening to podcasts where people would interview experts in the dating field. Actually, my final year of college, I stopped going to all of my classes and I started listening to dating advice podcasts all day long.
No way.
I read 4-Hour Workweek, Think and Grow Rich, and I listened to every dating podcast I could because I didn't have any money, but the podcasts were free, and so I would hear all these interviews with different experts. You and Kelly were definitely one of them, and I remember being so intrigued by what you said on your podcast. This is crazy. I've never met this guy. I never thought I would meet him. I was just a college kid. I didn't know I was going to get into that. I didn't know I was going to get into marketing, didn't know I was going to get into the dating world, any of that. I was just a person who had pain, who was looking for solutions. And there was free content out there, this podcast, that's all I could afford at the time. And I heard your interview. I went to the website, and I remember looking at this website, and I was kind of a tech geek, so I knew how websites and stuff worked, and it didn't look like any website I've ever seen before because it had all these really, bold red headlines and very plain text, and it just went on and on and on.
It was sales letter.
It was the first long form sales letter I've ever seen.
One of those?
Yeah, never heard of it.
It was for Race's book.
Nice.
And again, totally broke. I literally, if I had $5 in my wallet, that'd be a good week in college, right? And I went through the copy. At first, I did what most people do when they see a long-form sales letter, which is this web page looks crappy, right? But if the copy's good, I got sucked in, and it was speaking to me, and I had just heard your interview, and you sounded like really cool guys, and I remember looking at that web page, and it had the timers and stuff, and I was like, oh God, I really, really want this. This sounds so perfect for me. And another hilarious part of the story. The social media that Race is talking about was MySpace.
Yeah.
But that dates us a little bit. But I read the copy, I got sucked in, and I think it was $40, $47. And I was like, I don't think I can afford this, but I need it. I need this so bad. This is exactly what I'm looking for.
Right.
If I could, you know what? And I think it was, I don't know, maybe one of the first things I spent on a credit card or something. And I bought Race's product. It was the first information product I ever bought. It was the first long form sales letter I ever saw. And so how crazy is it now? We're really good friends. And so just more of that, like, you make a decision and you go in that direction of what you're looking for more in life, and all these wild things start happening. Because meanwhile, while you're launching your first business, writing your first book, don't know what it is, 22-year-old or whatever Brad is buying his first information product, which is literally yours, reading his first long-form sales letter, and opening it and reading it. And I still remember the stuff that was in. I remember the design of that first ebook because it was the first ebook I ever bought, and it was really beautifully put together.
It was.
But I remember things like, you were saying, if you don't have all these cool pictures and adventures, you got to go out and create them. Like, just really great. And I used some of the strategies and got some dates from MySpace, following Race's advice. Like, but how crazy?
MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace.
Yeah. It's been a while.
I know, it's been a while. But how wild is that? We were going through different things at the same exact time, and never knew I would meet you and hang out with you, much less be really good friends.
So here's another one of those good points about life. You never know, man.
Mm-hmm.
It is so wild. Like, for example, how did I get that launched? I decided I was going to create it, right?
Yeah.
So I started creating it. You want to know how I found the investor that helped me design that book beautifully and launch it and know how to do the websites? A girl I met on MySpace. I invited her over. She came over. She brought a guy who was super sweet on her. Does everyone say that anyway? That's like the 50s.
Very old-fashioned.
I know, but it sounded fun right now.
Yeah, go for it.
Anyway, so she brought him over because he was in town for a conference and was really like trying to get with her. Obviously, that didn't occur. I got with her, but he was like, I told him my idea and what I was doing, and he became an investor. That's how I met the guy that designed paid for the design of the book and to get it launched. Beautiful. So, dude, it's the decision that you make, and then you have no idea how the pieces are going to come into play.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, like, you don't want to know. That's spoil the whole surprise.
Spoiler alert.
Do you want to know the ending of the movie before you watch it? Like, nobody would watch that.
Yeah.
There needs to be a surprise.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing. So really, I think one of the biggest things we're saying is you make the decision and then start putting your energy towards it, and life's going to fucking stack you up.
Yeah. Things will happen. People will come into your life
just
that
weirdly
you wouldn't have, and it's because you're open to it. You know, if that girl brought a guy to your date and you had no interest in starting a business or creating an info product, he would have been like, I'm an investor in these types of products. And you would have been like, cool, man. Anyways, want a beer? You know,
right.
Also, I'm going to take your girl upstairs.
Well, but you already had it on your mind. You were looking for it. You were talking about it. You're putting it out there. I love my brother is a voice. He's really amazing at voice stuff, announcing and stuff. And years ago, he was like, I want to become a racetrack announcer. And
that's a fun thing.
I know, but he made the decision. Like, I remember talking to him. I was like, well, you're not going to college. You don't seem to resonate with college. So what are you going to do? And I was like, seriously, if all options were out there, what would you do? And he was like, I would be an announcer. Okay, what kind of announcer? And he was like, racing, because he was really into listening to Sirius Radio racing. And then that idea was implanted in his mind. And then, like, the next time he went to the racetrack, there was a lady there from our town. And she says, well, what are you up to? To my brother. And he's like, oh, I'm just looking, he, for the first time ever, I think in his life, he said, I'm thinking about getting into announcing. And she goes, well, I know the owner of such and such racetrack.
Right.
Do you want to...
He put it out there. And this is the racetrack that's right near our house, our parents' house. And he was like 18 or 16 or whatever. And she goes, well, I could ask if they're looking for help or whatever.
Unreal.
Couple weeks later, he's getting the first time on the mic.
That's great.
Dude,
and
it's so unreal.
At this point, he's one of the top, announcers in Michigan for that particular type of racing. And he's like, he's met his heroes.
This
Good
isn't
for
a
him.
Special, like, just so you know, this isn't like an odd case.
Yeah, that's
this
how it works.
Literally
this is
how it
works.
operates.
Yeah.
So I want you to know, if you're listening right now, this is you too. You can do this.
And you got to start talking about it.
But the question,
people, right?
it sounds so silly because your question is, if, it's like the whole thing, like, if you had $1 million, what would you do? Right? That sounds like a silly question that you ask, but no, it's accurate. Ask that to yourself. What could you do? What would you do if you could do anything? Spend your time thinking that, because that is literally how you're going to spend your days on this planet. Go for it. What do you want to do? And I'm not trying to say this is an easy cakewalk, but I'm saying once you make that decision, and I think that's kind of become the core of this talk, is things start moving into place for you.
Yep.
You know what? I think there's another step that's really important.
I want to hear it.
Is that after you decide and things start coming into place for you, you got to appreciate it and celebrate it and be excited about it. And I think especially, we were talking about this earlier, especially men are not taught to celebrate good things in their life. They're taught to like keep their emotions in check and to always be stoic and act like you've got it figured out. And a lot of people, men and women, focus a lot on what's going wrong in their life because they want to solve, even if it's not being negative, maybe you just really want to solve a problem.
Sure.
But if all you spend all day thinking about solving problems, you're focused on problems. And one thing that's changed my whole life is that after these good things start occurring in your life, take a minute and be really happy about it and celebrate that you created it. Like, appreciate it. Like somebody, I love when people give you like really memorable quotes because they just stick in your mind. And someone told me once that what you appreciate appreciates. So like, how often do we take the time to appreciate that things in our life are going the way we want and that we like it? Even little things. Like, oh, I met this guy who wants to finance my book, That's great. Fuck yeah. Like, take a moment and like pump yourself up about it. Be excited about it. Because if not, usually what I found is after you make a decision to go towards what you want, life will throw all kinds of obstacles in your way, which is also part of the game.
Yeah.
And you
need
need
how much you really want it, do you?
And you need energy to get past them. And a lot of times we do things like spending time worrying and thinking about negative things or like feeling bad drains your energy. And so whenever we're low on energy, we would just default back to whatever worked for us in the past, which for me was always like focusing on problems and complaining and feeling bad. But it takes a lot of energy to follow up on your decision and make it real. And you get a lot of energy from being grateful and appreciating what's happening now.
Yeah,
that generates energy.
Adds energy versus detracts. So that's a really good point
and if you're not aware that that's something you should do,
because
we don't do
aware
it.
Of it.
How often do you celebrate what you're creating in your life right now, even if it's small? It adds up. It adds energy. And especially, how often do entrepreneurs go to bed at the end of the day being like, or like crap out at 2 in the afternoon, and they're like, I'm so drained. I'm so tired. Usually that's because you're spending all day thinking about problems and it's sucking your energy out. Celebrating things brings your energy back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to celebrate this inaugural podcast where
yeah,
you guys are joining me.
The podcast just happened.
And delivering amazing content. So thank you. This is truly beautiful. I really genuinely appreciate this experience. I've been a podcast listener since I was in college, and I always wanted to have cool podcasts.
And you just got one.
And it's happening.
Started one.
And it's happening right now as we speak. So this is beautiful.
Well, you decided. You made it happen.
Yeah, this is literally an example of exactly what we're talking about.
And I didn't wake up today thinking, oh, I want to do a podcast today. But you asked me, what kind of content could we create for you? And I was like, well,
and honestly,
there's been this thing I've been thinking about,
That's another cool thing that you'll find. I mean, this is a little more advanced, but the people that you surround yourself with, and they'll start showing up once you make the decision.
That's the wildest thing.
It is. It's bizarro town, 100%. That they'll show up. But that's another thing to be grateful for, because they will continue to help you push forward. Because, yeah, you're right. You didn't know you were going to do it today, but I was like, you mentioned it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of people you'll find yourself surrounded by, and it just adds such a cool dynamic to your life.
Yeah.
Like, I'm even here right now in Austin visiting 2 of my best friends because I knew how much they would add to my life, and I really wanted it right now. And I'm very thankful to
And we were talking about this 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I kept following up, and you kept thinking about it, and we made it happen.
Exactly. So takeaways. Should we do a little summary?
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe helpful at the end?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I listen to things and I'm like, wow, that was so much good stuff, but what do I do?
Yeah.
Right? So 1 is definitely make like, first of all, reach deep inside and figure out what is it that I actually do want in this life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's a big question, and maybe it'll take a while. In fact, there's a technique that I learned back in college from reading. I read a lot of self-help stuff, but this one stuck with me. You can even get a friend to ask you, what do you want? And all they do for 15 minutes is keep asking you, what do you want? And you keep answering. Because then it keeps getting deeper and deeper. And I surprised myself what it actually meant at the end of it. Because we start with the surface stuff. And then we get a little deeper and a little deeper. So maybe try that. Or you could just ask yourself that and write it out. But don't just do it in your head. At least write it out, or have a friend or someone you care about ask you, what do you want? And then keep going. And then just answer as truthfully as you can. And then you might get down to something pretty amazing. You'd be like, yeah, that actually is the thing I wanted. I didn't realize it. But then once you realize it, holy cow, that's awesome. Now you can make a decision, which is the thing that we've talked about. Make that decision now. All right, that's what I'm doing. And the world will start opening up. Because your brain will start working on, how do I make that happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's...
But you have to decide first.
I know. And that's...
You won't know how before you decide.
Oh, there's no way.
Yeah.
I mean...
And that's okay.
Most people go backwards. They go, once I figure out the way, then I'll do it.
Right.
Yeah, that's backwards.
So that's so backwards to how it works. For all of us, we can all attest to it. Mm-hmm. So that's what you do. Figure out what it is.
Decide you're going to do it.
And then decide, and then...
Then start figuring out how to make it happen.
Yep. And it'll be beautiful, and it'll be weird. I promise you it'll be weird. Things will happen where you're like, that can't be real.
Yeah, it'll never look like what you're expecting right now.
Not one bit. So
it can't.
So if you can, release the expectations.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, but if you, trust me, it will make it a lot easier. But if not, go ahead and expect and then be surprised. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. The thing is, it's okay.
Everything's okay.
Yeah.
Everything is awesome.
It sure is.
It's cool when you're part of a team.
It is.
How about your final thoughts, Connor?
Final thoughts. Well, I would say if you want to live a free lifestyle where you get to travel around and have a lot of adventures and surprises, I would say the biggest thing for me has been building friendships and relationships with people.
Absolutely.
Don't just think that people like to market this laptop lifestyle. And I think if you're not already aware, it creates a lot of lonely solopreneurs who sit at home and just hustle all the time. Don't isolate yourself. One of the best decisions I made a few months back, like 2 months ago, was, I told you about this.
Yeah.
I think I told you both. I realized that I was not connecting enough or networked enough in the business that I wanted to create, or that I wasn't, like, there's so much that you don't know. And I realized I should be asking people for help. Like, I should be reaching out. You have a network, whether you realize it or not. And so I started calling everyone I knew that in any way could give me advice, and just started asking them for help, to introduce me. I put out into my network that I was looking for work. These are my things that I can do. And 2 months later, I'm working with this awesome startup company. I've like doubled my income because I put out there that I was looking for help and connection. And a lot of people, I think when they get started with internet marketing stuff, end up getting isolated, or Brad calls it being entrepreneur lonely. Actually, I love that term.
That's a cool term.
Yeah, it's a great term. But that's the worst thing you could do. Like, don't isolate yourself. Don't think that you're going to do it on your own. Nothing worthwhile has ever been created alone. And you need to be able to work with people and connect with people if you want to make any kind of money at all. And all these adventures that we talk about are cool, but somebody's got to fund it. Whether that's you or someone that you connect with, somebody's paying for what you're doing. So make sure to put the most effort into like your connections and friendships, and like we talked about earlier, give first and don't expect anything back, and you'll get so much back.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing starting off. You feel like a fraud.
Yeah,
everyone does.
Everyone does.
Just please take that.
Well,
everyone feels that way. Reach out. I'll tell you right now, when people ask me for help, genuinely, I'm so excited to help them out. I'm like, yeah, let me tell you what I've learned. Yeah. But we think on the other end, because I remember being on the other end, if I ask, am I going to bother them?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not
Or
the
what
case.
I don't have anything
Any value
valuable
to
offer
give.
them.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Nope, you don't.
Honestly, so I get emails all the time from people that find me in the ClickBank marketplace, and they're trying to prospect me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so because I run a lot of offers on ClickBank. And so there are people who are like, hey, they just start off with some pitch. They're like, I can write you these many emails. Does your sales copy sucks? Like, let me help you. And they're clearly amateurs, and they're trying really hard to sell themselves. The only time I've ever connected with someone that actually took their phone call, the guy was just like, hey, I'm looking to get work as a copywriter. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could be of value to you or not, but if you ever would like to talk, I really appreciate your time. He wasn't trying to be someone he was not. And he wasn't
straight honest.
If you're not as successful as you want, you can still get help from people just by being honest about where you're at and offering to help anyways. I didn't end up paying the guy because he wasn't that good at what he did, but I took his phone call.
Yeah.
You know?
Which was a big leap forward for him.
Yeah. And that's how I've gotten helped ahead in business as well, is people that were willing to do that for me. So you don't have to be, if you have that worried about being a fraud thing, you don't have to be all credentialized and successful.
Not one bit. We all had to start somewhere.
You almost can't be.
Be honest.
Start where you're at.
Be really honest and say, hey, look, I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z. I don't have the credentials yet, but I'd love 10 minutes of your time, you know?
Literally, if I got that email, that would have caught my attention.
Yeah.
Literally just what you said.
Yeah, because I've been helped by people in the past.
Anyone who's got anywhere has been helped by people before.
And they would love to pay it forward and help out. But if you act cocky or you try to pretend like you're good at something and you're not, I'll ignore the shit out of you. Because I get 10 of those a day and they're really obnoxious.
That's some really useful advice for someone starting out.
Yeah, so if you're just starting off, you don't have to figure out everything on your own and buy every course and try to piece it together. Reach out to someone like Brad or Race or myself. Ask for help honestly and openly and be cool about it.
And keep at it, dude.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't get the first email.
Yeah.
Literally, we get so many.
Yeah.
Keep going.
But
don't
cool.
fill
Be
events.
cool.
Yeah.
I would add be cool.
Be cool.
If
Don't
people
feel
are
like it's
cool,
original.
they get
Don't be
so much more from me than
my
if
God.
they're just going right for the pitch or
don't
whatever.
try to pitch anyone.
Just
if you don't have something to pitch and you
Yeah.
don't know what you're doing. Don't pitch yourself.
If
Just
people
ask
are
for help
nice
honestly.
and they ask me for help, I'm happy to help them.
Yeah.
But if they're at all
Yeah.
not nice, I just ignore it.
Because why would you spend any time on that? There's nothing in it for you.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you're not good at what you do, if you're asking for help and you're being really cool, there is something in that for me, because people like us that have achieved some kind of success, we do get something of gratification out of helping other people.
Yeah.
So you're actually doing us a favor by asking for help, and anyone else that's anyway successful.
That's a good thing to remember.
You actually are giving value by giving them an opportunity to help you.
Mm.
But if you're in any way trying to take something or be weird,
Cancel
cancel that. Yeah. Now you're not doing it.
Delete.
So that would be my advice. I wish I'd done that sooner.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that you could.
Yeah, it's the thing.
But if it was in my awareness that even if you're a complete beginner and you have nothing to offer that could make anyone any money, find ways to reach out and connect with people, especially in person. Go to events, conferences, just walk up to them and say hi.
Yeah, and you don't have to pay for them. If you don't have the money, show up afterwards. Everyone's doing networking afterwards.
Yeah, everybody networks at bars around big events. That's a cool hack.
Say it's at a hotel or something. Go to that hotel
the
bar,
hotel bar
when the event ends.
Yeah.
And just start talking to people.
Yeah. But just the value of personal connection can get you farther ahead than any kind of advertising or any kind of business technique.
Mm.
You can get ahead 10 times faster just by knowing one person that can help you.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for being on the podcast. I had a blast and really appreciate all your amazing advice. There's tons of cool stuff here in this episode. If the listeners want to find you, do you have a place for them to?
I'm sure we'll put a link in there somewhere.
All right.
If we want to.
Check out the link, Race Depriest.
Conor Boyland.
Conor Boyland.
Just go to conorboyland.com.
I do every day.
Honestly, that's where I spend most of my time.
I think it just redirects to my Facebook videos.
Cool.
Whatever.
Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.
Boom.